All right, we've done move, we've done copy, we've done stretch. We're now going to rotate. Now rotate, I'm going to erase some of these objects. E at the command prompt, select my objects. You can see I'm using a crossing window. Left click when I'm done. I'm done selecting my objects, press return. Hold down the pan, or hold down the scroll wheel as I move my mouse, and that's my pan key. Now rotate, for those of you that remember your basic geometry, your 0 degree mark is where AutoCAD assumes your rotation is going to start from. It's a 0 degree position. And if you remember geometry, 0 is pointing to the right. And as you move positive from 0 to 360 degrees, you're rotating counterclockwise. This will make sense as I show you. Now rotate is this icon here, and again, like any other icon, it's if you hold your mouse over that icon, then AutoCAD will give you this little index card looking thing to sort of explain what the command does. And at any point you could actually push F1 to have the AutoCAD help system. Well, it ties into Windows, but it's actually Windows is looking at the AutoCAD help menu is what's happening. So I'm going to start the rotation command by typing RO at the command prompt and press the space bar. I'm going to select the objects that I want to rotate. In this case, I only want to rotate this one. And I want to rotate it around a certain point. I want to rotate it around this middle point right here. So I'm done selecting the objects that I want to rotate. I push return, specify base point. This is the axis of rotation. Think of the Earth's axis as it spins around that one central point. Think of that as its base point. Or as the planets are orbiting around the sun, think of the sun as the base point for the rotation of the planets, even though it's orbiting and it's not rotating. It's a different thing, but bear with me. So I'm going to select my base point. This midpoint right here is the base point of my rotation. If I left click. Now, this is what I mean when I say AutoCAD assumes a base rotation of 0 degrees. It just so happens that we drew it in this orientation. But you can see my axis that I'm rubber banding right now, that orange dashed line, is starting at 0 degrees, and we're just working our way up and around. Now, I can use my mouse click to establish a new angle. I can use these rubber band axis locks. And remember, that's located down here. Polar tracking. Right click and you can set it to different increments. Right now I have it set to 45 degrees, which is right where I want it. So if I want to rotate this 45 degrees, I can just use my mouse and have it lock onto that angle, and I left click and it's rotated 45 degrees. Likewise, I can actually type in 45 degrees. So if I start my rotate command again, RO at the command prompt, press space, select my objects. I'm done selecting my objects. Press return. Here's my base point. I'm going to rotate it around the same point again. Now see, here we go. We're starting, even though the object itself is oriented on 45 degrees. Revit or AutoCAD is going to assume my beginning point of rotation is at 0 degrees. So if I want to rotate this 45 degrees down, I can rotate this minus 45 degrees or 315 degrees if you want to do the math. And I can left click, or I can type in minus 45 and push return. But what happens if you want to start at an angle other than 0 and end up at a different angle other than 0? For example, I'm going to type U at the command prompt to undo. Also Control Z works. Press the space bar. So here I am at 45. What happens if I want to take this 45 degree angle? I know it's 45, but I want to change it to 60 degrees. And I even want to rotate it around a different spot. Start with a rotation. Start my command, press return. Select my objects. I'm done selecting my objects. Press the space bar. I'm going to select my base point of rotation. And let's say I want to select it, my point of rotation is around this midpoint. So I'm going to left click. Now the difference between 45 degrees, where it sits right now, and 60 degrees? That's only 15 degrees, so I can manually type that in. Or what if I want to rotate it to 37.295 degrees? Well, that's a lot more difficult math to think of on the fly. But I can, as evidenced right here, there's this option here that says reference. And what reference does is it allows me to use my mouse clicks and establish a reference angle to begin my rotation from. So instead of my starting point being a rotation of 0, my starting point will be the rotation that the object currently is at. So before I select any other point, remember I've selected my base point of rotation. I have not clicked anything else again. I will type R at the command prompt. This tells AutoCAD I'm going to establish a reference angle. Well, I know that I want to start my angle here. So I'm selecting these 2 points to establish a new line, a new rotation angle, or a new start point to rotate. And what did I say that was? 37.285 or something like that? So I can actually type in 37.285 degrees. And we are exactly at 37.285 degrees. There is an option, you may have seen it, and I'm going to do that just to get that back at a nice pretty 45-degree angle. And you know what? Even better. I'm going to rotate this another 45 degrees. No. I'm going to rotate it all the way down here. Just do that. I'm going to start my rotation command again. I'm going to select my objects. Done selecting my objects, press the space bar and press return. Select the base point of rotation, which is going to be right here. Left click. If you look down here, you notice I have another option here. I can make a copy. So I'll leave the original intact, and the new version will be rotated. So I want to make a copy, rotating a copy of the selected object. And I want to make copies at 45, I want to make a new copy at 45 degrees. And there we go. And again, you can even make a copy. So I'm going to rotate. Here's my object. And I'm just going to pick a base point of rotation way out here in the middle of nowhere. So this time, not only do I want to make a copy, but I also want to specify a reference angle. So if my reference angle is 315 degrees, now I'm making a copy at 45. So there you go. There is the rotate command.